Hey guys, Level Up here. Today I wanted to bring you my first build guide based around the new and improved NinjaBike backpack. So the build I'm going to look at today is going to be focused on solo PvE play. And if we look at some of the key build highlights, we're going to be getting 8% extra weapon damage for our assault rifle and SMG. We're going to be running with 56% enemy armor damage. We're looking at 62% damage to elites, as well as getting 15% protection from elites. And on top of that, we're going to be getting 15% health on kill for every enemy that we kill. So let's go ahead and take a look at what makes this build so powerful. So one of the most interesting changes made in 1.7 were the changes to the NinjaBike backpack. So the NinjaBike backpack now acts as a wildcard for all the other gear pieces that you're running. So for example, these two defense pieces that I'm running, the NinjaBike's going to effectively act like a third piece to enable me to unlock the 2 and the 3 piece bonuses of that gear set. The 1 piece Nomad that I'm running here now becomes 2, so it unlocks the 2 piece bonus, and similarly the 2 piece Predator's Mark that I'm running effectively becomes 3 piece, unlocking that 3 piece bonus. So it unlocks a whole new world of possibilities when it comes to build diversity, and that's a fantastic thing in my opinion. It allows us to have more combinations of gear sets, pieces that we would have ever had before, and allows us to unlock a number of extra bonuses that we wouldn't have been able to do in the past. So the build that I'm looking at today focuses around solo PvE play and focuses on elites only. So this is going to be a build that you'd only wear when you wanted to solo challenge missions, really. You could potentially put it on for incursions, but it might be a bit squishy and it wouldn't be beneficial for team play, so I wouldn't recommend it. And it focuses around 2-piece defense, and one of the changes that was made late on before 1.7 dropped was the change to the 3-piece bonus, which now gives us 10% extra damage to elites rather than 30% extra shield health, which was what it was before. So now for any kind of challenge mode mission build, this is pretty essential because you're going to get 15% protection from elites for the 2-piece and 10% damage to elites for the 3-piece. So it's kind of mandatory really for this kind of build. The next piece I'm going for is 1-piece Nomad. So that unlocks the 2-piece 15% health on kill bonus, which when you're solo is really useful because obviously you'll be killing all the enemies yourself. So every time you kill an enemy, you're going to get a nice big 15% chunk of health back. And I've opted to go for 2-piece Predator's Mark because I'm going to be running with assault rifles in this particular build. And you're going to get the 8% extra assault rifle damage from the 3-piece bonus, as well as the 10% extra reload speed from the 2-piece bonus, which is at least beneficial. You don't have to run with Predator's Mark here, and one of the great things about this kind of build and this sort of strategy is that it's quite flexible. So you could change these two out for 2-piece Banshee if you had better Banshee pieces, and that would give you the 10% out of cover damage bonus. Sorry. The 2-piece bonus obviously wouldn't give you anything, which is not much use, and that's one of the reasons I'm not running it. And alternatively, you could also run 2-piece Striker here as well. So that would give you a big stability boost. So if you're maybe on console and you want the extra stability, then 2-piece Striker here would be really good because you're going to get the 10% enemy armor damage as well from the 3-piece bonus, which is obviously really useful in PvE. So that's kind of the theory behind the build. Let's go into the detail. So we're running with a defense chest piece with a high stamina roll and enemy armor damage on the major alongside health and ammo capacity on the minor. And for the mods we're running on this, we're running with purple mods which have firearms and damage to elites. Moving on to the mask, so this is a nomad mask and rolled with firearms and running with enemy armor damage on the major and damage to elites on the minor. So these are the two that you're going to always want to roll with when it comes to challenge mode PvE missions. And then for the gear mod we're running the same firearms and damage to elites mod. The knee pads, we're going to run another stamina piece here, so we need to have 2 stamina pieces for this build, and I'll go on to the reasons why when we cover the weapons. The major attribute I've rolled health, and as a minor we want to make sure we have damage to elites is the most important thing. The other 2 are less important in PvE. You might want to make sure you have bleed resistance as a priority, purely for some of those more difficult challenge mode missions that maybe sort of spam seeker mines at you, which are going to give you bleed, or you might want resistance to fire as well, because you get a lot of the cleaner missions as well. So those probably would be better than the 2 I've got here. Kill XP is always good though, just because just increases the rate you get the field proficiency caches as well. The mods I'm running here, so another firearms damage to elites mod, and I'm running a pulse critical hit damage mod as well. So onto the backpack, NinjaBike of course, so that's mandatory for the build. If you don't have one, then unfortunately you won't be able to make this build. It's rolled with firearms as the main stats, and the major attributes I've got health and I've got burn resistance. Again, the minor attributes not too important. Anything burn, bleed or ammo capacity, to a lesser extent ammo capacity to be honest, either of those are fine. And on this particular one I'm running with an electronics and damage to elites mod, and that's to enable me to get above the threshold required for one of the weapon talents. The performance mods I'm running on this one are pulse critical hit chance for both of them. Onto the gloves, I'm running with Predator's Mark gloves with firearms on the main stat, and assault rifle damage, critical hit damage and enemy armor damage. So this build is not focused at all on crit, so you could run, I probably would rather for this particular build have 5% health on kill, because like I say we're running about sort of 3-4% critical hit chance, so it's not really worth having crit damage, to be honest. And then on the holster, it's a Predator's Mark holster with health on the major attribute, and the performance mod we're running here is another pulse critical hit chance mod. Onto the weapons then. So my primary weapon is a G36 enhanced. The reason for that is just because it was probably the strongest weapon I had with the right talents, but the G36 is still really strong in PvE, so although everyone obviously is mostly running M4s and the variants, don't overlook a G36. It's a strong weapon, it's got better sustained damage and higher per bullet damage as well, so it is still very good, and it's more stable. So again, if you're on console, this is a great weapon to use. The talents that I have on this one: responsive, destructive and ferocious. Now destructive and ferocious are key in this one, and responsive is also a great talent. Responsive is one of the few talents which is multiplicative, so that 10% damage increase is a multiplicative damage increase rather than additive, which means that your sort of total damage output is multiplied by 10% rather than it being added on to a separate damage multiplier. Marco explains this actually in one of his latest videos, so do check that out because it gives a really good explanation on how these talents work together. And because we're going to be running up close and personal to the enemies, you're almost always going to be proccing responsive, so it's definitely, I would say, one of the best ones to go for after destructive and ferocious. Now, our secondary weapon doesn't need to be a bullfrog. The reason I'm running it is because it happens to have the two talents that I really wanted for this build, and those are Unforgiving and Predatory. And the reason for this is because we're going to switch to our secondary when we get to low health, because we're not going to be running with any healing skills, because we're running such low skill power. It's not going to give us any sort of heal really. The whole point of this is that we switch to our secondary when we're at low health, so that we activate Unforgiving and we get up to the 25% damage boost, so that we can kill the enemy really quickly. And then once we do kill them, we also activate Predatory to give us that 35% health over 20 seconds. And also, obviously, when we do kill an enemy, we're going to get that 15% health on kill from Nomad as well. So this is the weapon that we're going to use when we hit sort of difficulties and we just need a health boost. This is what it's going to provide. So like I said, it doesn't need to be a bullfrog, and in fact what I would probably prefer is an SMG of some kind, so a high rate of fire, either an MP7 or an MP5. And because what tends to happen is that you'll probably shred the armour off, or most of the armour off, with your primary before you get to low health. So you don't really benefit so much from the enemy armour damage. So what would be good is an SMG, obviously with crit, which was going to apply damage even when the armour's been taken away. And you'll probably find that that'll actually kill them quicker. Well, the other thing as well is if you are to run with an SMG as a secondary, you could potentially also run Self-Preserved as one of the talents, so that provides you a small amount of healing with every crit that you land. So it could be a good way to just sort of get yourself a bit more health while you're still firing, and then when the enemy's dead you get your big boost from Nomad and you proc the Predatory bonus as well. So that would be cool. I think that would be a really good combination. I didn't have an SMG that I could use for that, but the bullfrog works just as well, or almost as well, I would say. For both weapons, the mods are the same. We're not focused on crit at all, so we're looking at extended magazine with rate of fire, and then headshot damage on the scope and on the muzzle, and then crit damage and sort of range on the grips for both weapons. So those are the weapons. I'll move on to the character sheet now, so you can see what kind of impact these have. What this has on the stats. So if you look at the crit chance, like I say, we're not really running crit. We're very low. It's focused around just raw damage. And when we look at the stats, we've got obviously the 8% assault rifle damage bonus. And then we come down here, we're running 62% damage to elites and 56% enemy armor damage. So you can see that that's going to be adding a huge amount of damage to our weapons. And then we get that 15% health on kill. We have no skill power really, no skill haste, but that's kind of the point of the build really. As we go down we can see the survivability. We've got 15% protection from elites. And we've got quite a lot of health because we're running with 2 stamina mods. We're at 235,000 health, so that's pretty good. So the abilities, now because we're running such low skill power, there's not a lot of point in having anything like booster shot or overdose to give us healing. We're getting our healing from killing the enemies. So we're running with the Seeker Mine gas charge so that we can just annoy them, kind of act as crowd control, and just it really affects the accuracy of the NPC. So when they're affected, they kind of fire all over the place and sort of run away, and you can kind of disorient them so you can kill them a bit more quickly. So that's a good one to run if you're running with low skill power. And I'm running with Pulse Tactical Scanner primarily for the damage bonus that you get. So I'm not too fussed about the sort of crit chance and the crit damage bonuses that we're getting, because it's not huge. We're getting 13.4% crit chance and 11.9% crit damage, but that 10% base damage we get is why we're running with that. And if we move on to the talents, we can see I'm running with tech support, and the point of this is to make sure that we can get our pulse and get that 10% bonus from pulse active for as long as possible. So every time we kill an enemy, it extends the duration of our pulse by 10%. So yeah, the longer we can keep up pulse, the more damage we're dealing to the enemies. So alongside tech support, I'm running with critical save. So just in case we get low and we're unable to get a kill to get a health boost, it's always useful to have critical save to give you that 20% extra damage mitigation when you're running low. Then you pop a med kit. Also running with steady hands so that we can enter cover and get our recoil reduced, so this affects our accuracy and stability. So when we're running with something like the bullfrog, that is really useful. And because we're going to be face tanking fairly a lot of the time, we're also running on the move so that we can kill a hostile while moving to give ourselves a 15% damage mitigation for 10 seconds. So that's really it. Like I say, it's a really flexible build. You can swap out these two Predator's Mark pieces for any other 2-piece that you want that deals some damage. You can have 2-piece Alpha Bridge to get the 3-piece bonus of 5% weapon damage. Like I said before, you could run Banshee or Striker, but you know, it's up to you really. It's a great build to run for PvE. It gives you good sustain, so a lot of survivability and a huge amount of damage as well. So as you could have hopefully seen from the footage that has been playing in the corner, it does work really well, and the whole sort of premise around running unforgiving and predatory on your secondary weapon allows you to switch when you get to low health, and it just kind of gives you an extra damage boost and an extra health boost as well. So there you go. I hope you enjoyed the video. If you did like the video, please be sure to like and subscribe if you haven't already, and I'll see you guys next time.